So, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I still have it in Chinese, but The Art of Thinking Clearly is an amazing book. We have been doing some really good reading from it. And let's have a look. We were reading chapter 19 yesterday, The Dubious Efficacy of Doctors, Consultants, and Psychotherapists and the Regression to the Mean. And today we're up to chapter 20. I cannot believe we are already up to chapter 20. Never judge a decision by its outcome. The outcome bias. So let's do some reading. Let's improve our brains. We can discuss it if you want to, and we'll have a look at what is going on. We have a question on the Big O Live. Somebody's asking if I have an Instagram. Yes, I do, and it's called Business Team 6. So Business Team 6. I look forward to seeing you there, and I'll also just say hello that way. Okay, a quick hypothesis. Say 1 million monkeys speculate on the stock market. They buy and sell stocks like crazy and, of course, completely at random. What happens? After 1 week, about half of the monkeys will have made a profit and the other half a loss. The ones that made a profit can stay. The ones that made a loss, you send home. In the second week, one half of the monkeys will still be riding high, while the other half will have made a loss and are sent home, and so on. After 10 weeks, about 1,000 monkeys will be left. Those who have always invested their money well. And after 20 weeks, just one monkey will remain. This one always, without fail, chose the right stocks and is now a billionaire. Let's call him the success monkey. How does the media react? They will pounce on this animal to understand its success principles, and they will find some. Perhaps the monkey eats more bananas than the others. Perhaps he sits in another corner of the cage, or maybe he swings headlong through the branches, or he takes long reflective pauses while grooming. He must have some recipe for success, right? How else could he perform so brilliantly, spot on for 20 weeks, and that from a simple monkey? Impossible! This is a very interesting and very true story. This actually used to be, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if it was going to be part of it, but this is actually a scam that used to be run back many years ago. Now it's illegal, where they would take a stock and they would tell half of the people that it was going to go up and half that it would go down. So they'd start by sending it maybe to 100,000 people. Then whichever prediction was correct, they'd send another prediction, and they'd send it to the stock was going up or down to a different group of that. And they were going to send it to the other half that already got it correct. And then again, the half that got it correct, they'd send them another prediction, and they'd say to half of them that it was going up and half that it was going down. So eventually, they had 7 correct stock picks, and they say, look how good we are at picking stocks. Literally, they hadn't done that because they had just sent it to different people, so that only the people who saw all the correct ones were the ones who were given the impression that they were good at picking stocks. And then they'd say, okay, the next one that we pick, we want you to be our clients. And so they'd have maybe 10,000 clients if they started with enough people. So if they had a big enough database, they'd be able to do this. So this is an old scam from way back. The monkey story illustrates the outcome bias. We tend to evaluate decisions based on the result rather than on the decision process. This fallacy is also known as the historian error. A classic example is the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Should the military base have been evacuated or not? From today's perspective, obviously, for there was plenty of evidence that an attack was imminent. However, only in retrospect do the signals appear so clear. At the time, in 1941, there was a plethora of contradictory signals. Some pointed to an attack, others did not. To assess the quality of the decision, we must use the information available at the time, filtering out everything that we know about it post-attack, particularly that it did indeed take place. Another experiment, you must evaluate the performance of 3 heart surgeons. To do this, you ask each to carry out a different operation 5 times. Over the years, the probability of dying from these procedures has stabilized at 20%. With surgeon A, no one dies. With surgeon B, 1 patient dies. With surgeon C, 2 die. How do you rate the performance of A, B, and C? If you think like most people, you rate A the best, B the second best, and C the worst. And thus you've just fallen for the outcome bias. You can guess why. The samples are too small, rendering the results meaningless. You can only really judge a surgeon if you know something about the field, and then carefully monitor the preparation and execution of the operation. In other words, you assess the process and not the results. Alternatively, you could employ a larger sample. If you have enough patients who need this particular operation, 100 or 1,000 operations. For now, it's enough to know that with an average surgeon, there is a 33% chance that no one will die, 41% chance that one person will die, and 20% chance that two people will die. That's a simple probability calculation. What stands out? There is no huge difference between 0 dead and 2 dead. To assess the 3 surgeons purely on the basis of the outcome would not be only negligent, but also unethical. In conclusion, never judge a decision purely by its result, especially when randomness or external factors play a role. A bad result does not automatically indicate a bad decision and vice versa. So rather than tearing your hair out about a wrong decision or applauding yourself for one that may have only coincidentally led to success, remember why you chose what you did. Were your reasons rational and understandable? Then you would do well to stick with this method, even if you didn't strike lucky last time. And there's another example. We need to be very careful of the results and where the results come from. So our monkeys were extremely lucky to be able to pick the right stocks, especially that last one that picked all the right stocks and is now a billionaire. So if we look back and take a step back, we can see that it's just pure luck that this monkey's been able to achieve this result. And the media always needs a story. I think we had that in another chapter, where the media will always look at it from an angle that's going to be interesting to sell. So the newspapers are going to be very inaccurate in the information that they give us because they're looking for a compelling story to give us. And it's similar to during, I think it was also World War II. They had planes come back and they were trying to figure out how they could improve the airplane and what they needed to do in order to be able to get these airplanes to be able to fly out and come back more safely. So they started looking at all of the airplanes that came back, and they noticed that most of the airplanes had a lot of damage on the wings, but they never had any damage on the engines. So they concluded they needed to reinforce the wing structure, and they didn't need to worry about the engines. But the reason that these planes came back is because they weren't hit in the engines. The ones that had been hit in the engines were obviously the ones that ended up falling down and crashing. So they went and reinforced the wrong part of the airplane because they were only looking at the survivors and not at the ones that had actually crashed. So what they needed to do was reevaluate the information a little bit better and actually encase and protect the engine more. And we very often fall for this in our lives. And Mladen says that he agrees with today's text and comments. And yes, it's a very interesting one. It's important to not just look at the outcome of what has happened, but actually evaluate and avoid the outcome and just analyze the information itself, not knowing what the outcome was. And that way is one way to protect yourself. And there's a couple more examples of, for example, investment magazines. So very often they will spruik and talk about all these different investments that are good. So there are stock magazines and they'll talk about which stocks are going to be rising and which companies are good and which ones to analyze and what they're expecting to happen. And property magazines will do the same thing, which areas and which companies are going to be good to be able to invest with. And very often what we don't realize is that the advertisers that are in those magazines, so the companies that advertise their product or services in these stock magazines or these property magazines or these cryptocurrency magazines, if they exist, all of these are obviously not going to be put down by the magazine. So let's say, for example, that a certain bank, we'll call them Bank X, advertises in this magazine. When it comes time to say whether stocks are good or not, if the magazine says that stock X is not likely to be a very good stock, then that advertiser will probably pull out and not advertise in the magazine anymore. So the magazine's not likely to say that stock X is not good, even if it isn't good. So it's really important to realize what is behind everything. Remove the outcome, have a look at what's really going on, and you'll be able to overcome the outcome bias. There we go, we had a bit more in that one than I thought we would have as well. And then our next chapter is going to be chapter 21, less is more. I talk about this a lot in my masterminds. We're always telling everybody to really focus in on what is the most important and do less, but do the things that are going to give you a bigger bang for your buck. And this one is called The Paradox of Choice. I'm looking forward to reading that one for you tomorrow. It has been amazing reading for you again today and having your comments, Vlada. And for those of you who are interested in investing and stocks and other things, property, cryptocurrency, business, we are going to be starting a research club. We're putting the final touches on that one. So get in touch if you are interested. You can also find me on Instagram. Everybody's always asking about Instagram on Bigo Live. So Business Team 6, you'll find us there. And yes, follow, comment, like. This video will also be up on YouTube. So if you enjoy the content, leave a comment, hit subscribe, and you'll be able to see when the other videos are all uploaded. Have a great day today. I'm looking forward to seeing you all a little bit later on or tomorrow. And remember to keep your brain sharp by doing some reading and doing some investing, getting together with other people, masterminding, and achieving your goals and dreams. And I'll see you all soon.